Told you. I told you, didn't I? Let's have a look at it. Oh dear. Look at the state of this. Now, there are two lines of thought with this. I know it's a Saturday, so there's no script for this one. But Games Workshop have changed their logo, folks. They've changed the logo. The mask is off. They've taken the mask off, and now this is where they are. This is who they are now. There are two lines of thought to this, though, and I'm going to explore both of them. The first one is, hey, this isn't a big deal. This is what companies do. They basically have a corporate logo for recruitment and things like that, and they have a mainstream logo that's on all the boxes. I've heard that quite a lot, and every time I've searched for it on Google, it keeps coming up, pointing me towards Reddit, and we know how the people on there think, as in they don't at all, because they don't have brains. Rewind, though. Look on the boxes that you have near you of Games Workshop products. It will have the corporate logo on it, the one on the right, not the one on the left. So everyone telling you that, hey man, it's just a corporate logo, it's not going to go on any of the boxes or any of the products, they're lying. No, it is. They don't have brain cells to research this themselves, or even look at their own shelf, mainly because they don't collect the models, because they're just posers and tourists, and they shouldn't be here anyway. But I do agree with one train of thought, though, right? This isn't a... Activision Blizzard is a thing. This is something that happens in nerddom every once in a while. Even back in the day when Rick Priestley was at the company, things like that, these things still happened. It's business. It's what happens. Things are streamlined. Things look prettier. Not prettier, but more simplified, right? What annoys me is, Games Workshop probably paid some, consultancy company hundreds of thousands of pounds to make that logo on the right. Like literally. When some designer at their company made the one on the left, when the company was just coming up, that kind of a thing. Something that Valrak said too. I was watching a stream that he did on this a few hours ago, and he was mentioning people's childhoods, right? People were saying to him, hey, it's not that big of a deal, and he said, no, it is a big deal. It's a very big deal, because the logo on the left is synonymous with our childhood. It's synonymous with old school wargamers who really like Warhammer and want to have fun collecting and painting and playing with models, right? We saw this sign above stores in our local cities, and we'd walk in thinking, hey, we're going to have adventure in here, it's going to be awesome. And the red shirts and black shirts in there would take us aside and he'd show us these awesome worlds, and we'd have a lot of fun in there. And those guys were our heroes, right? They were our dudes, and we looked up to them. And we played awesome games in there. We went home with White Dwarfs, and those of us who were poor like me would get a free catalogue and pore over it for months until it fell apart in my school bag. All of those memories are tied up in that logo on the left, not the one on the right. That's the issue. And he put it really succinctly and really well for a live stream, so I'm quite impressed with that. But in terms of... and I completely agree. Games Workshop, this is more problematic than it seems, at least for me. It shows Games Workshop are moving away from the memories on the left and are going towards what is on the right. And what's more, there is a very good reason why they're doing this, in my opinion. This entire company will be sold within the next year or two. It will be sold. It's going to be sold probably to American interests, if I'm being honest. They seem to really like British companies right now, and they're being snapped up left, right, and centre. So Games Workshop is a company that is worth hundreds of millions, if not billions, and it's going to be worth more than that, especially when Amazon start sniffing around their IP and things. In fact, Amazon buying the entire company wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, at least in my opinion. The reason why Games Workshop is streamlining all of their things, like their logos, like their model brands, things like that. And I will get on to Caldor Drago. You watch me, right? I will get on to that. Look what they did to my boy. I'll be on Tuesday. I want to give that a bit of time to develop first, and then I'll jump into it once I've done a bit more research. But they're streamlining everything for a sale. It's going to go. It's going to America. It's going to wherever it's going to. It's going to the States. It's going to whoever's going to buy it. This is another reason why they've clamped down on IP so much, why they've gone completely off the rails in charging everybody down and whacking everybody with cease and desist orders saying, don't you do this, don't you do that. I'm starting my own project right now, and that is literally making an Exile edition of Warhammer 40k, right? My own edition. To release for free. No artwork, no nothing, just free. Just everyone can have a go at it, right? And I'm worrying about that project because you never know. They might just say, no, slap you with a cease and desist. Don't do anything to do with our games, even if it's free, even if it's for private use. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're not allowed to do it, right? The company on the left, I don't think would do that. Right? The company on the left, I don't think would do that. The company on the right definitely would. And this is the thing. I don't think we've really seen a better example of the two souls of Games Workshop, or the two halves of it, fighting over the soul, right? It's basically, you know, Malekith. Games Workshop is Malekith. The demon inside of him is the logo on the right, and Malekith is the one on the left. Do you know what I mean? And even when you're there, you're walking in, anybody who's worked there, anybody who's been a part of the company will tell you there is a distinct feeling of, there's two types of people who work for Games Workshop. People who love the company and the models and want to have fun and make some money whilst doing it. And there's corporate shills who are extremely passive-aggressive, extremely ruthless social climbers who, you know, yeah, they want to make money, but they want to make money in their way, in their little club, with their little clique, and that's it, right? Guess which one is on which side of the fence here, okay? This is what we're seeing. And we're seeing that second group slowly win out at Games Workshop. Their games are homogenized. Their games are uninspired. We're seeing Horus Heresy being muted and brought down into the 40k sphere of things. Nothing has any individuality anymore. Okay? Their armies of 40k are a grey sludge that can basically do anything if you take the right models and things. Games are getting more and more massive, so you have to buy more and more models. The new Grey Knight set is £45 more expensive, and all it has is that crappy upgrade sprue for the Dread Knight. That's the only difference from the old set, right? £45, please. £45 extra for this. They don't care. They don't care. That's literally it. They couldn't give less of an F about you, your money, your custom. It's at the point now they're insulting you to your face with these prices and these changes. And you're accepting it. Because you keep buying from this company. And make no mistake, guys, when you give Games Workshop money, you think you're buying from the company on the left. You're not. You're buying from the company on the right. You're empowering this. Okay? I do see the point, at least a little bit, of people who say, well, you know what, North, like, it's literally just, the company's just doing what every single company does out there. You know, it's becoming more streamlined, more homogenous, and this is what they do, right? So it's not offensive to the people looking into it, and it's more attractive to outside buyers, because they see the big corporate Games Workshop logo on the right, and they're more impressed by that than they are with the kiddified, more graphical, show don't tell logo on the left, right? And I agree with that. I think that's exactly what they're doing. I'm not disputing that in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely not. I just think it's the wrong decision. Like, I'm not disputing why they're doing it. I just think it's a terrible decision. That logo on the right looks like it's from a skit in The Office. You know what I mean? David Brent came up with that. Michael Scott came up with that. Right? That's a skit from The Office. That one on the right. To go with the logo on the right essentially is an admission that you do not care for the memories that are held by the logo on the left. You don't care whatsoever. It's a soulless, corporate, right? Homogenized, grey, white and black. You know what colour they make, right? It's a non-logo. It's a set of words. That's it. It's a set of words. You know, the logo on the left has character. It has history. It has that word, heritage. It carries heritage. It carries weight. It carries the past. But here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. I think they're showing you now, Games Workshop don't want the past. They don't want the guys who used to come into their store and idolize them and their models and basically strong arm our parents into financially saving the company by buying their products for so long. You know? The guys who backed them by buying their White Dwarfs and buying their extra sets, and yeah, there were moaners around, don't get me wrong, but up until 7th edition, the hobby space was generally positive. Like, people were generally, all up in on Games Workshop, and it's towards 7th edition when you really started to see the rot take hold. You really started to see these people and their absolute disdain for the fan base and how they didn't care. They didn't communicate with us. They didn't want to know us, right? Then they started throwing us a few bones by communicating with us again, by actually hiring an online, team to talk to us. And then that went away, right? That went away. 8th edition happened. The setting basically died with Cadia, and they started messing around with things and started bringing in things like female custodies and dumbing down all of the Grimdark elements of what we're talking about. And here's where we are, right? Here is where we are. Let me just have a little look here. I think I've got another thing that I wanted to show you that is about. Give me one sec. It's like a horrible experience of squashing a bug by accident. I hate that. Do you know what? I'm not a Buddhist or anything, but I don't like squashing bugs. That sounds really weird, I know, but I just don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like squashing bugs. Anyway, something else I wanted to show you in terms of what I think is going on, right? So, and this is perfect, right? This is perfect. I saw this the other day, and then Maka showed me it as well. Look at this. This is the difference. Okay? This is where we are. I don't think I can put it any clearer than this. Look at the grimdark goodness of the image on the right. The demon, the Kotiaz, right? And all of his glory. There with his hammer, right? Smiting down demons. The red sky above him with the tentacles coming out of it. You can see he's somewhere where he is the last line of defense. Are these people who have been sacrificed below him? Which side are they on? Are these undead brought back by Nurgle? Or have they been sacrificed by the Imperium and propped up to say, death, no further. We don't fall back from here. And Kochaz is there with his hammer and the cherub around him with all of his beautiful symbols of the Grimdark Imperium. All of the scripture flowing off of him. The halo that's playing above his head. The religious iconography that plays all over him. This is a grim setting, right? And Kochaz is there bringing the hammer down on something that is off screen. And he doesn't look like he's triumphant. He looks tired, right? Tired and heroic. He needs these pipes coming out of his armor to help him move this heavy, heavy weight. And he's been swinging this hammer for days. And he's done, but he won't give up. Even his people in the background, right? They're weighed down by what's on their back. They're all supporting Kotiaz. They're all making sure they're pouring their power and their faith into him whilst he smites what is off screen. And it's demonic and terrible, and, just like Hitchcock, we don't get to see it. It must be awful. Whatever he's fighting must be awful. I want to play that army. I want to help this guy. I want to help this guy by collecting his army and leading him on the battlefield and making sure he survives and he beats his foes. That's old Games Workshop. That's Grimdark. And it's good stuff, right? Now let's juxtapose that with the new Games Workshop stuff on the right. Again, I couldn't do this any better than what is here, right? What do we have here? a clean Kotias. There's no cherub there because that would be a bit too hard-edged for, you know, the people who are walking past with their kids to look upon, right? Even the hammer is coated in this lovely blue colour. The background behind him isn't this foreboding red, it's an inviting blue. Kotias isn't tired here. He's strong. He's capable. Look at him. He's been there for days and it doesn't matter. It's a Saturday morning cartoon, folks. I'm never going to get tired. I'm not in any peril or danger. You don't need to help me. I'm Kotias, right? There are no pipes in his armor. There is no help with his armor. And, what's more, all of the Grimdark fetishes that are all over the left-hand side picture are gone from the right-hand side picture. There are no bits of parchment. There are no Grimdark skeletons and bones and trinkets and things that are helping Kotias in this moment. He doesn't need them, right? He's brave. Stunning and brave, Kotias. Look at him standing there with his arms aloft. He's been here for days. Doesn't matter. There are no stakes anymore. And what is he fighting, by the way? It's not off screen anymore. It's fucking Nurglings. Great. He's fighting Nurglings. You know? And he's looking down on them like, come at me, bro. I'm sure you can see the difference in attitudes, and you can see why. Hopefully you can see why now I make this point with such passion, right? Warhammer's dead. Warhammer 40k is dead, and it died at the end of 7th edition. I've been on record saying I like 8th edition as a game. I do. There are parts of 8th edition that are in the Exile edition, right? There are parts of it that I like. But lore-wise, feel-wise, company-wise, it died at the end of 7th. Something that not a lot of you know is when 8th edition came in, there was a purge of staff. Now, a lot of people left. Mostly not voluntarily, mostly sacked, mostly just gone, right? I ended up being one of those people. I was at the tail end of that cycle of getting rid of people, right? And they all tended to be people that I got along with. They all tended to be people who really preferred the image on the left to the image on the right. That's all I can say about that, right? There was a big sea change at Games Workshop retail at that time. If you weren't going along with the system, if you weren't chucking games out of your stores and saying no more gaming in my store, if you weren't going along with the Saturday morningification of 40k and the mainstream games, you weren't really welcome or wanted at the company anymore. They were going in this Amazon mainstream direction, not the Grimdark direction of the past that we had on the left. So this is what I mean. These are our memories. These are the days of our lives, right? These are our memories. You know, just like Fleetwood Mac. Sing it with me. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to sing. A few of you were horrified when I said that. A few of you were excited. Don't know. Two different forms of my audience, and I love you both. But anyway, these are our memories, though. This is the soul of Warhammer to me. The soul of Warhammer is the image on the left. It's grimdark. It's defiant. And this is what I mean with things like Trench Crusade. You wouldn't get an image like this in Trench Crusade. It'd just be a guy standing there with a scab face looking miserable. Right? Because, oh my god, it's so grimdark. Oh my god. Oh my god. No. No. This is grimdark. This is a tired warrior who fights anyway. This is a warrior who, by all rights, should be allowed to put down his weapon. And nobody would think any less of him. And he carries on. That's Kotias, dude. That's fucking Kotias. Right? That's what he does. That's what most good Inquisitors do. They fight on. In the absolute deluge of awfulness that comes at them in the 41st millennium, right? And by the way, there were lighter parts to the old lore. There were loads of worlds that were worth defending. Places like Gudrun, right? Places like Elysium. Places like, you know, nice planets that were really nice to live on. The Imperium was worth saving. we played a war game, so we were always on the fringes of things, right? We were always in places where the laughter of thirsting gods, you know, the grimdark future and all that. Right, yeah. There were huge war zones all around the place, but they were defending worlds that were definitely worth living on, right? Not everything in the Imperium was this grimdark mess. I'm not campaigning for that. That's Trench Crusade schlock. I don't want that, right? There can be no light without dark and vice versa. Kotyaz isn't fighting to defend, you know, miserable hive worlds. He's fighting to defend humanity, and he's fighting to defend the countless amounts of worlds where people are living good lives. You know, civilization is growing steadily but surely. Very steadily, very slowly, but it's growing. It's getting there, right? It's held together by faith, yes. It's held together by dogma, yes. But it's holding together, you know? And you can't judge 40k through a modern lens. It's just not how it works, you know? Even if you live on somewhere like Gudrun, like a really nice place. And Terra, by the way, is nice. It doesn't have any oceans anymore. It's badlands mostly, but the cities are nice. They're described as being very nice, right? There are hive cities there, yes. But if you're like a middle class citizen on the throne world, you're living a nice life. You know, you got your own palatial estate. You got this, you got that, right? On Gudrun, most people have their own houses. And it's a world that only appears in one Eisenhorn novel. But you see it. People have their own houses, people have their own hab blocks, people, you know, it's very much like the modern world that we live in now. And there are countless worlds like that, and Games Workshop tell you that back in the day. Yes, there are horrific hive worlds that get all of the headlines because of how horrific they are. Yes, there are countless worlds that are assailed by demons and heretics and aliens and all sorts. But there are more worlds that are actually quite pleasant to live on. You know, but you're defending everything. You're making sure the rot doesn't spread. And the Kotyaz on the left is doing that. The Kotyaz on the right is kind of a bully. He's going after Nurglings, man. The lowest of the low. He's living life on easy mode. One is made by one company, and one is made by the other. My soul is, and has been, and always will be, ingrained in the left-hand image of Kotyaz walking through the Grimdark, right? That's my Games Workshop. That's what I grew up with. The guy on the left, I don't know who the fuck that is, but it's not Kotyaz. Right? And it's not Games Workshop. I don't know. Do you think I'm going mad? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm kind of sick of this shit. But it is what it is. Love you a long time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.